Hello and welcome back. All right, I promise this is the last time we're going to go over this photo, but I realized I forgot one step, which happens sometimes when you have a lot of information to go over, and that particular lesson was getting longer and longer, and I just forgot to add this step, which is flipping our clouds so it matches our light source. So we can simply do that by selecting our cloud layer, using Command or Control and the letter T, right-clicking and select Flip Horizontal, and now our clouds match the direction of the light with the rest of the image. All right, that's it. Let's move on to this image here, and this will be a much easier and faster lesson versus the last image. It's a lot cleaner. We don't have a lot of hard edges from the buildings. We just have a lot of grass blades. So in this particular image, we have another situation where the lighting is low intensity and it is diffused. We do not have any hard lighting, and we can see that from the shadows that are coming from right to left. The shadows themselves are kind of faded or diffused, and they don't have a hard edge to them. So we need to find clouds that are going to be similar in this lighting situation, and I chose these clouds for this particular image. Now we do have hard lighting and more intense lighting up here in the top left, but down here it's more diffused and it's not as hard. So we're going to use this area of this cloud image to transform our sky into this. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first step is to grab the layer and move it over to this document here. I'm going to press my move key with the letter V, and I'm going to go ahead and drag this into place so it's perfectly centered over our image. I'm going to then turn that layer off. And for this method, we're not actually going to make a selection. Instead, we are going to use layer masks and blending modes. And this is a great way to quickly add a sky change when you have a background that is pure white like this. Now along the edges and some of the corners here and there, we have some areas that have some darker white areas, but overall it's going to blend in much better than what we did in the previous lesson. Now we could use this method with that image that we used in the previous lesson as well. It's just a little bit more difficult because you do have the hard edges of those buildings and there's a lot of them. So it would require more cleaning up versus this particular image, but then again, it still might be faster than the methods that I taught you for that particular image. So I recommend taking what you learn here and applying it to the previous image as well, and that'll be another great way to practice these different methods for changing your skies. There's nothing like practicing what you learn with different tools and options. All right, so the first thing I want to do is rename my layers. Now, the first thing we're going to do before I forget is we're going to flip this image because we do have our light coming from up here in the left area, and in the other image, this image here, the light is coming from over here. So with Command or Control and the letter T, we're going to get our free transform tool. We're going to right click and select Flip Horizontal. All right, now our light is coming from the right direction. Then we're going to change the blending mode for this cloud layer right here to multiply. So right there, you can see that the layer is now in place of that white background. But like I mentioned, this is too intense, so we need to select part of the cloud image to match the rest of the photo. So I'm going to drag that up, Command or Control T, and I'm going to also increase the size of this layer as well to get more of these clouds over here in this section here of the photo. I'm going to go a little bit larger. I want to get rid of some of that blue. So I think right about there should be good. A little blue is not that bad. It's not going to show a lot of intensity right there. So now what we need to do is we need to get rid of all of this area right here that is covering our couple. So to do that, we're going to come down here and select our layer mask. Click on that. It adds a layer mask. And then we're going to grab our gradient tool, come over here to your paint bucket tool and select the gradient tool. Click on this editor right here to edit the gradient. We're going to select a black to white gradient. Black removes, white adds, transparency shows nothing. So we're going to select black, click OK. We're now going to create a gradient from black to transparent so we can remove this cloud over this part of the image. Make sure your layer mask is selected. All right, so once you have that selected, go ahead and make sure your opacity is set to 100%. Then come over here. I'm going to start right above the shoulder of the groom. I'm going to click and drag up, add the gradient, and boom, it's done. We have a little area right here that is covering this part of the hill. So if you want, you can always click and create a new gradient to fine tune your edit. And I'm going to do it one more time. I'm going to come down here and drag up higher. And there we go. The image is done. That was 100 times faster than the previous image and the other methods that I showed you, but it's not going to work 100% of the time on all photos. So again, you got to test out different tools and selections and options and find out which ones are going to work for what kind of photos. And for this one, I think it's fine. We also have the atmospheric condition in this particular image as well. Because of the gradient that we applied, we lightened up this area of the image and it's still darker up here. Now, if you want to make it even lighter, you can start up here at a higher point and drag up, and it's going to make it even brighter in more areas of the image. So that's entirely up to you. I like this. This works because they are on a hill. The horizon for this area is actually down here. So it would make sense that you're not going to see as much white in this particular image versus something that has a perfectly horizontal horizon that you can see far off into the distance. So that's it. That is option 2. I love using this option, and I find myself using this option more than some of the other options that you're going to learn, but I'm going to give you another option in the next lesson. So if you're ready to get started on that, we'll do that after your assignment. Go ahead and grab this image and this cloud. Go ahead and apply the layer masks as I've shown you in here. Practice, submit for feedback, and then we can get started on the next lesson.